All right. Come on in, everybody. Come on in. All right, everybody. Thank you all so much for being here. Welcome back to the Wives Club. The Wives Club was started in 2021 when I booked a session with the late, great Kevin Samuels. It wasn't for me. It was because I did feel convicted every time he said, "Where are the older women to teach the young?" So what we do here is we review Kevin's content each week and we respond as either current wives, former wives, or future wives. So you may know me as Maggie, the substitute teacher, and I have someone very special here with me. Lucy, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, Miss Maggie. Hi, everyone. So I'm calling incognito because I'm not as beautiful as Maggie right now. I've had a really bad health day, but I'm here to support my friend Maggie and just to have the discussion because it's going to be an interesting topic. And most of you know me. I have a channel that used to focus on basic Spanish, but now I've changed the content to mostly topics about culture, femininity, elegance for women over 50.
And thank you so much, Lucy. We love Lucy. I appreciate you being here and take as much time as you need. Yes, absolutely. Thank you all so much for being here. So we will do our usual hour of responding to a particular Kevin Samuels video. As always, I link the video in the description. This one's only about 20 minutes, so if you haven't watched it yet, I encourage you to do so, but I'll give you a recap, and Lucy and I will give you our response. We see Lisa in the house. I know everybody wants Lucy to get well. And then we have Justalina. I love that name. It's beautiful. She says, "Hi, Maggie. Hi, Lucy, and everyone. If you want to be counted present, feel free to shout yourself out." Okay, so as usual, Kevin Samuels' content had a very striking title, and you can see it in the description with the quotes, "Modern woman feels men need to prove themselves to women." So again, I encourage you to watch this video. But this was a clip from a larger live stream where Kevin Samuels was talking to a woman. She was in her early 30s. She had married young. She had married in her early 20s, I believe was married for 6 years, divorced her husband, and then was divorced for 5 years. And she was calling Kevin to basically disagree with him that he had a stance that women need to compete for the men that they want and women need to prove themselves to the caliber of men that they want. And her rationale was, well, I think we both need to prove ourselves, meaning men need to prove themselves to women and women need to prove themselves to men. So I thought it was a very striking conversation for a lot of reasons. Let's see what other detail. She married a man, I believe he was from Ghana, from another country, and he wanted children from her, but she refused him children because she wanted to either focus on her career or go back to school, or it was something like that that she kept postponing it, and her husband grew resentful, and so she divorced him and had been single ever since. So that's the recap of the episode from my recollection. Did I miss anything, Lucy?
No, you got the summary really well. And I love that Kevin provided that analogy about going into a job interview. Who is the one that's trying to um, show that you've got the skills to keep that job? Is it the employer or is it the employee? And that's when she said that it was up to both to prove whether the employment was up to par with the employee, and that's where you saw that her understanding about who would gain more on the relationship part was skewed.
Absolutely. It was really skewed. So I have my notes here and I would love to know you all's thoughts. I'm going to give you my response as a former wife, married for 10 years, to my college boyfriend, have two boys from marriage. I always say I got caught up in that modern woman mindset. It ended in divorce, unfortunately, after 10 years. Since then, I've been in a long-term with a very traditional man, so I learned to get on the program. Okay. So the first note that I have here is if you listen to this video, you will hear this woman telling Kevin, well, I feel, and why do you feel? And I feel this, and I feel that. And he actually corrected her a couple of times and said, well, I don't really feel, I think. And I thought that was really interesting and it kind of set the tone. Ladies, we are emotional creatures. We are built this way. We do kind of lead with feelings, but when dealing with men, when having conversations with men, when trying to debate with men, just realize that they're very logical. They think and then they execute from that thought. Sometimes they'll take feelings into consideration. Oftentimes they don't. Boys are kind of raised up to, man up, quit your crying. It's just kind of what it is. So I thought it was interesting that she was trying to have that type of debate with him, and he had to correct her multiple times, and she kept saying, I feel. So that was one of the first takeaways for me. Do you remember that part of the conversation, Lucy?
I absolutely remember. And it's funny that he had to remind her quite a few times that men think, for the most part, they don't feel. So again, it's interesting to I remember that specific conversation, especially watching other panels when I see men saying I feel and the other men say, well, we don't feel, we think. And that's it. Sometimes it causes strife between the men because really the logical part comes into place because men are not feelers. For the most part, if they have a loving family and, their heart goes into that family, but for the most part, it's logic and this is how they see it. And this is how they plan on solving whatever problem we're uh, presenting to them. So again, men feel, we women for the most part, men think, we women for the most part feel.
I love that. And I love hearing what you all have to say. We have the condemned man here. He says, right, we're robots. We don't have feelings. Now, come on. We know women have brains and men have feelings, but I always like to bring to the forefront. Y'all have heard me say it so many times. We are not the same. We're not equal. We're equally valued, but we are very different. Excuse me. And just in language choice and communication, there are some things that are very different between men and women. So ladies, keep that in mind when you're talking to men. All right. So the second note that I have here, like I said, the summary was that she was married for 6 years. I think at age 21, divorced her husband. And Kevin asked her, how many proposals from men that you value have you fielded in the 5 years since you've been divorced? And it was quite an uncomfortable conversation from her because the answer was none. And I love how Kevin had a way of just asking questions that got you to think, because she came in like a lot of modern women that's like, well, I divorced my husband, I needed to focus on my job, my career, my school or whatnot. I'm happy. I'm in my mid-30s, life is, what I make it. And yes, ladies, of course, you can choose to do whatever you want, but he had her realize like, oh, I had a husband and he waited for 6 years for children, and I continued to deny him and then divorced him. And now I'm out here just working with no real prospects. And I just thought that was interesting. So I listen to women, but I love Kevin's his line of questioning to get you to really realize, like, get your head up and say, wow, what's really going on here? Do you remember that, Lucy?
Yes, and what was striking to me is that it goes back to us being feelers for the most part, women, and we change our mind a lot. I bet you that at the beginning of that relationship, She was probably into having children, into creating a family with them. And all of a sudden, when she wanted to have a career, she changed her mind about children. And again, the most men marry us to leave a legacy for children. And if she wasn't able to provide that, and I'm sure that that wasn't the only thing that caused the the divorce, but that was probably the main thing. He said this is not going to work, and in fact, he wasn't even the one that filed for divorce. It was her. So that was really particular and interesting to hear that how Kevin Samuels was dissecting everything that she was saying and got her to kind of acknowledge that it was mostly her fault that she's in the situation she's in.
That is so true. And she actually admitted, ladies, that she regretted it. Now, why do we do this? Now, of course, this was one conversation out of many, but this was so typical of so many women who kind of have this, I'm fine, I'm fine, I'm fine. But when you really, like a really good therapist, and Kevin was not a therapist, I'm not a therapist, I'm just an older woman. We believe the older women should teach the young. But when she chose to focus on her job, now she's in her 30s with this $100,000 job. That's great, but no man and no prospects. And what he was trying to get her to realize is, ma'am, you don't have the leverage now that you used to. Now you're in your 30s. She had let herself go. I think she said she was over 220 pounds, and she had kind of let herself go because she was just kind of heads down focusing on this career. And again, it was because she refused children to her husband and then divorced him. And so she did admit that she regretted it. And people have to make their own decisions and live with those decisions. But I thought, when she stopped all of the moving about and realized what her life had kind of become, it was actually kind of sad. So, what he told her, ladies, and this is one of the lines that Kevin used to say that people would get so upset about, but he told her, he said, women like you die alone because you think there's always going to be another opportunity. There's always, I've got time, I've still got it. I can still compete. No, you need to prove yourself to me. And she's realizing that nobody's really taking you up on that offer. You won early. You had a man who was willing to wait for you at least for, 6 years. And then you left him because he wanted a legacy. And, I've said this before, men marry for a goal. I was talking to my man earlier, and we all have a benefits package that we bring to a relationship. And so men usually, like Lucy said, want some type of legacy. It could be, a wife who runs a well-functioning home. It could be children. But if you just kind of say, you know what, I'm doing my own thing, that's what he said. He told her she was selfish. And he said, women like you will die alone. Ugh. What would you say to that, Lucy?
Yes, and what was striking for the most part was that, at least for me, when she said that was 220 pounds, however, she had 100K plus salary or job, was this lady is going to it has risked her health, physical health, because again, she has brought all that stress because we women deal with stress very differently than men. That she was probably heavy set because she was eating her stress away for that high paying job. And, unfortunately, men, as wired as they are, the visual part is what calls their attention. So she's been focusing on the job. She hasn't even paid attention to her physical health, allowing those years to pass by to then, yes, end up dying by herself.
That is so true. And I love what Aaron Laura says here. That's so unfortunate. He had to have been a very patient and loving man to delay his life plans for so long for her. Absolutely. A little story time about me. I've shared with you all. I met my ex-husband when I was 18. And so he was my one college boyfriend. We got engaged the year after I graduated and then married the year after that. So I was married at 25. And then still we delayed having children. We talked about it, but I went back to school to get a master's. We moved, there's work promotions, all of this. But as soon as he said, I think we're ready, we started the family planning. And so the boys were born. I was 32 and 34. All that to say, I mean, ladies, I just think if if you know that a man wants a family and you just deny him. I mean, it's one thing if you're not able to, but just to not try, but you put all that effort into this job, that's where she ended up. Okay, so back to my notes. He told her she was selfish. And one of the things he spent a lot of time talking to her about is that older women have to compete. Well, first of all of us women have to compete. I think my takeaway for this episode, because she said, well, I think we both have to prove ourselves to each other. And he said, no, you don't. And she was like, why do you feel that way? He's like, I don't feel, I think. And he said, because we propose. And ladies, this is so true when it comes to marriage. I've said it before, my man will tell you, we're not the one giving out these rings, or at least we shouldn't be. We are asking a man to share his name, his covering, his legacy, his income, his protection, his provision. So if we want that, then we should be able to compete for that, because we are not the only woman in the world that wants a man who will, protect and provide for us. And I was thinking about an analogy that I could use, like our youth and our beauty and fertility, all of that is currency. Most of us love to shop. We're in the United States. We take US dollars here. If you had Chinese yen and you tried to go shopping at your local store, they would say, no, we don't accept that. So what would you do? You would go to the bank and exchange for the currency that they do accept. The same thing goes with men, ladies. Now, the disclaimer is always, if you want traditional marriage, I always say, I realize there's lots of different types of relationships, but I guess the takeaway for me is the kind of masculine men that we want. A man proves himself to the world, and the woman proves herself to the man. That's what I would say about that. I don't think that once a man has built himself and can command the type of relationship that takes that stress off of you, he doesn't have to prove anything to you. He is who he is. You either accept or you exit with grace. What would you say about that, Lucy?
I love that mentioned about the men proposing to the women. We don't do the proposing. We show themselves that we are worthy of getting proposed. And I'm happy to mention this because I don't think I've talked about this much. My brother-in-law, he has a daughter from a previous marriage who was going out with this really masculine, really, older, I mean, older than she is, a man. And this morning we get this direct message with her showing her engagement ring. And it's funny because I was thinking last night, I was praying for her because it had been quite a few years that they had been together. But again, it took him a long time to vet her, to come around the family, to come around the married women around the entire structure for him to decide whether she was worthy of marriage. So I am so happy that Nicole got engaged, and we, as the sisters, the aunties, the tias in the family, we were so thrilled to have seen two beautiful people finally make the decision to start a life together. So again, it's up to the men to vet the woman and say, yeah, she is worth of being in my world than the other way around.
I absolutely love that. And congratulations. I love sending gifts, so I'll have to send a little engagement gift. But it's true, ladies, and men vet the way that they vet. You can't rush it, you can't change it because they're looking for certain things and they have their own timeline of what they're looking for and how long they need to see it consistently. So if you have the caliber of man that you say, where you go, I will follow, you're not going to rush him. You're not going to wrestle him to the ground. And especially, and this is the harder thing, for those of us older women, I am 48. Lucy has shared that she is 57. This woman was in her 30s. But Kevin was basically saying, we older women not only have to compete with, women our age, but we are competing with younger women. And that's just the truth, ladies. That's why he was kind of scolding her that you had it when you were in your 20s. Now you're over 30, you're, stressed from work, you've let yourself go, and you don't have the same leverage that you had because if a man wanted 2 or 3 children, it's going to be a little bit harder to get that, from you and, the risks associated with that. So is it the end of the world? Absolutely not. But ladies, those of us that are older, we really have to swing it out of the park because whatever reason we delayed, we need to show up and show the benefit of that. So a man will overlook someone that is younger and more compliant and choose us if marriage is what you want. Hello, Bella's in the house. The Condemned says, gotta know when to hold them, gotta know when to fold them, gotta know when to walk away, and gotta know when to run. Ouch. Yes, congratulations to Lucy. Absolutely. Oh, no problem, Lucy. We love having you here. All right, so let's see. So she divorced her husband in her 20s, focused on her career, got this big 6-figure job, and then he asked her, okay, so you've been single now for about 5 years since the divorce. How many proposals have you had from men that you respect? And she said, none. So he said, what have you been doing in this time? And she said, well, I've been in therapy. And he was like, and we love therapy, but sometimes, I'll just say it, ladies, sometimes we women will use therapy as a crutch for kind of staying in the same spot because it's something to check the box and say, I'm in therapy, I'm doing something, I'm busy about doing something, but you're not really moving forward. And so she said that she's been in therapy, and what Kevin told her is that all this time that you've spent, your relationship muscles have atrophied. And I'm seeing this more and more when I talk to older women. I was talking to one today, and she met a quality man who was asking her simple questions like, could you see yourself being a part of my life? And she was stumbling and struggling to answer. And I was shocked. I'm like, you're in your 40s. Like, these are simple questions that a man who is vetting you is going to ask you. You mean you haven't thought of this? But if you just spend time, oh, I'm in therapy, or I'm praying about it, or I'm vision boarding, or I'm manifesting, or I'm going to church, and all these things are great. But if you're not actually progressing, what's happening is when you pop up and you're ready to try again in relationship, you're not at the same place where you were. You've actually fallen behind. Because I love that concept that Kevin talks about, relationship muscles. And all of us who do any type of fitness, you know what it's like when you've slacked off for a while or had an injury and then you try to get back on it. It's harder than it was before. So ladies, keep that in mind. Your relationship muscle needs to be something that you continue to develop, because if not, it will atrophy. And all of the therapies and all these other things that you're doing, get what you need, get back on the horse and get in the game. What would you say to that, Lucy?
What a wise concept. And yes, and one of those muscles is going out there and meeting people, not staying in social media, looking at everybody complaining about the world and how the men are treating you badly. No, you go out there and start making friends. Go out there with a smile, just looking at life in a more positive way, and start exercising those social skills muscles, because if you don't do it, nobody else is going to do it for you. And the fact that this gentleman asked the your client that question, and she was a little uh, a little thrown or thrown off of that with that question, says that she hasn't really thought about why she's out there in the dating pool. Why, and the fact that he asked her means that he probably didn't see that in her, and he had to ask and make sure that he wasn't seeing the that skill. He confirmed what he was seeing already by asking her that question directly.
That's so true. So I'll just give you ladies some tangible things and then we'll come back to Kevin's episode. When you are being vetted by a man, he is going to ask you questions because he is trying to see if it is a suitable match for him. I've said this before, but the purpose of dating is to find out, is this a suitable match for marriage or long term? It's not just about googly eyes at some handsome face or, ooh, I get to go have these experiences. All of those will come in time, but you really want to put some thought into what you bring to the table, your benefits package, and likewise do the same. So the person that I was talking to today, I was like, you might want to take some time to think about these because these aren't really difficult questions. And the fact that you got thrown off by that, what ended up happening, she revealed that the dates that she was going on before, she was intentionally choosing men that she described as kind of unavailable, but because they were attractive to her and they didn't really like press her for anything. So it was just easy. But a man who has built himself is not looking for something that's just easy. He's looking for a woman that can really add value in a way that matters to him. Let me see what y'all are saying in the chat here. Lisa says, if you don't do that, you really do run the risk of being awkward and lacking self-confidence. This is so true, ladies. Really think about it. Maybe you practice answering just like you would for a job interview. And I'm going to park here for a second. I love to hear what you say. We got Angelo in the house. It's been a while. He says, I have a long list of questions in my phone notes. Ladies, I'm telling you, when a man is serious, and I'm going to drop the link in case anybody wants to chat. You can be camera on or camera off. But ladies, when a man is serious, he is looking for something specific. And everything that we do either confirms us for him or disqualifies us for him. But it's all data. Men are always collecting this data. It's not just, ooh, a chicken dinner or a restaurant with a nice view. That's not it at all. Like I said, I was talking to my man earlier and he said, men choose a woman for a goal that they have. You need to know what his goal is. Does he want a wife to give him children and, keep, raise them for his legacy? Does he want a nurturing woman to be maybe a stepmom or grandmother figure to the kids he already has? Does he want a woman who can run a well-functioning home so that he comes home and, it's warm and welcoming? Does he want a wife that is, always camera ready so that whatever high profile career or whatnot that he has, she instantly, plays her part as first lady? There's so many different types of relationships. I'm not going to say that you have to do any kind of thing, but ladies, you need to know this. You need to know what your strengths are, and you need to be able to answer his questions and ask some of yours. And like Lucy said, these are only things that you're able to develop when you're out there talking to people and meeting people. What did the condemned man say? He says, that is concerning to hear a woman who cannot articulate what she is looking for long term. I was speaking to a 28-year-old woman I was considering seriously, and she still wanted to have fun. That's really disappointing. At 28, what did Kevin say? You're already in the danger zone. And ladies, you can have fun, but don't let I don't even recommend it. I don't think you need a hot girl summer, but if you do, don't let your hot girl summer turn into a hot girl decade, because 28, in some cultures, 28 is even late for marriage. And you see that we have a masculine man who was seriously vetting her, and her priority was fun. And Lucy says, wow. Angela says, have fun means sprint away. Condemned. She belongs to the Gen Pop. Yeah, I absolutely understand, and ladies, here's the thing. There are so many more attractive women and women that are willing to get on his program than there are masculine men of value. So when you have access to one, if you want marriage in long term, you need to realize that before it slips through your fingers. That's really sad to hear, but she can take another trip around the mountain. Let's get back to the episode. So we talked about, you know, Kevin was trying to get her to understand that we women have to compete. And I think it's a good thing. A lot of times women get offended by that, but I like reminding myself to show up as the best version of myself, because I know, you know, I want to say the enemy is at the gate, but I guess the enemy is at the gate. That's how men live, right? They realize that someone's always coming to usurp the throne, eat their lunch, take their woman or whatever. So they have to stay on it. So I want to make sure that I'm worthy of that. And I know as an older woman, I really have to outperform in a lot of areas. So I make sure that I stay, feminine and nurturing and all the things that are important to my man. So now he was asking her questions like, do you want, Kevin's standard questions. Do you want to get married? Yes. Do you want to have children? Yes. We already identified that she really wasn't active. She said that she was just kind of going to work and going to therapy. So she was already behind. So he was asking her, what kind of man that she was looking for. And she was looking for a certain type of man, but because of now her age and she's kind of let herself go, she was less of how do I say, she wasn't the best candidate. And he talked about that, in a job interview. And women, we love our big jobs and we love getting those gold stars. But he said, when you are interviewing for a job, are you trying to impress the employer, or do you expect the employer to impress you? And she was like, both. And he said, okay, if you had to pick one, which is it? So I think when we think about relationships like a job interview, we want to come with our, best skills, how we can add value, how we can help the bottom line, how we can save money, how we can take stress off of their plate. Like all of these things is part of our benefits package. And he said that, you're going to have to do that for the type of man that you want. And even an average, he asked her, would you take an average man? A man that is, I think the average salary is somewhere between 40 and 50,000. And would you, respect him and, still treat him as the man of the house? And she was like, absolutely. I don't think Kevin actually, believed her, because he started getting into the numbers. And this is where, we women kind of crumble, right? But, she shared that she's making 100,000. So if a man made 40 or 50,000, that means, okay, you are willing to pay 2/3 of everything. So when the mortgage is due, you pay 2/3. Need new tires on the car, you pay 2/3. When this is happening, would you be willing to do that for a lifetime and still respect that man? And you could tell she kind of like stumbled a little bit. Ladies, let's just tell the truth. Like, there's nothing wrong with working, but we don't want the burden of having to be responsible. We'll do it for a time. Of course, you do what you have to in marriage. But when she really started thinking about it, she was like, oh my goodness, this big job that I've gotten has basically put me in the breadwinner role, put me as the man in the relationship. And, Kevin was asking her, would you still do that? And she was just kind of like, um, yes, okay, no. He said, you're still going to have to compete for that man that you're still paying the majority of the household expenses. And she really had a tough time realizing the position that she had put herself in, focusing on that big career. And now you're setting yourself up to lead in the relationship. What would you say to that, Lucy?
What so true. That was incredible how much of a visionary he was. And even if in her mind she thought it could happen, if she ended up with someone who earned half her amount of money that she earned, later on she would feel resentful. And I can tell you that because I have seen it in my own life. My sister, the doctor, she has a friend who is a doctor too, and the husband was, he wasn't earning as much as she was, and then you can hear their discussion how she refers to him as someone kind of lower on the totem pole. And it's really disheartening to be part of that conversation, because no matter how much a woman tries to say, even though he earns less than me, he will be the lead in the house, you will be resentful.
Ladies, that is so true. And, this is a tough one because the world that we live in now, we have access to higher education. And I'm speaking as someone that's got, a big job too. But I really have a heart for young ladies who don't really realize what they're doing. You're just marching towards this thing that because people told you you need to be a boss babe. But I'm sure this woman is now thinking, I put off a family so that I could chase this career. And then this career has kind of handcuffed me to be in a position that I don't think that's what I want to do until 65. So what's the takeaway? Ladies, absolutely go to school, work, do whatever you want to or need to do, but just be mindful of the choices that you're making and the pathway that it's leading you on, because it is very difficult and very intentional. I have to work on this. Check that ego at the door. Nobody cares about your big degree or your big promotion or your big whatever. I remember, and I have shared with you all, embarrassingly, I used to come home and barking orders. We need to do this, we need to do that. And my ex-husband was like, I don't work for you. And I didn't even know that's how I was coming across. Y'all, it was bad. But you just in this masculine environment and go getter, and you're just doing it because that's what you think is attractive. And it is not, believe me. So, she had a lot of regret that she could have had something that was more meaningful, but she chose this big career that now is like, I really don't have the relationship skills to be of, value to the man that I really want. So I can get an average man, and we love average man, high value man, Henry, hit squad, all of them have value. But she was realizing like, man, now I've set myself to be in this position when, I was 21 and got married, and, life could have been very different. Let's see what Lisa says. Lisa says, it's sad. I see it all the time with these women in their 20s. They are totally focused on the best looking man and only care about the car they drive, occupation, and how much money they make. It's true, ladies. If there's anything that I could do, I mean, Lucy and I, neither of us have daughters, but it's so important that young women start thinking, and I'll say all women, because like I told you, I was talking to someone earlier today in her 40s that hadn't really thought about what a man is going to ask you when he's seriously considering you. So you get caught up in the flash or the nice dinners or the fancy car or the little token purses or whatever. That is nothing for a man of value. A man of value all the trinkets, all those little toys, they come with it. But he wants to know, are you here for him? And what are you going to do that he can't do for himself? So it's really important. What does Angela say? My strength and wisdom costs me too much to acquire for my wallet to be the only thing that matters. That is so true, ladies. Oh my goodness. I mean, I've said this on another stream where when a man gets to a point where he's ready to take a wife and that responsibility, it has cost him years of blood, sweat, and tears. They don't look at it just like, oh, happy day, we're going to have this big party. A man looks at it like, if I have to give my last, you are the woman that is worthy of it. If there's only enough for one of us to eat, you will eat, I will go without. If there's a bump in the night, you can run out the back to safety, I will fight to the death. That's what men are signing up for. So when we just look at them as like, oh, you're going to be my little handsome plus one, and it's like cute, like this little doll next to you, that's so disrespectful to what a man has had to do to build himself. What would you say to that, Lucy?
I agree, and it's almost it's one of those things that we as older women need to remind those younger women that because a man leads with the shiny objects, that is something that should be troublesome, because are you looking behind that shiny object whether that person has character? What is, what does your dad, has your dad met him? Has the man in your life met the man that's shining those really nice material objects to really see whether that person, whether that man is worthy of your love and your time and your youth as well.
Ah, yeah, that is so true. So those were my takeaways. I don't know if anybody else has any thoughts on this episode, but this title, Modern Woman Feels Men Need to Prove Themselves to Women. So, I guess ladies, especially those of you all that are out here dating, if you meet a man that impresses you, it has cost him a lot. So just the fact that he is who he is and he's consistent and he is vetting you seriously, if he has those character traits and he is a quality man, I say run like the wind, get on the program, as long as there aren't any deal breakers. But modern dating has kind of become this chase for the Instagram award of look at what he bought me, look at where he took me, look at all of this, and you completely discount that man. Believe me, when you show up as the type of woman that a man of value is looking for, you get the world. You get so much more than you could have even asked for. But it takes time because they're not just going to, say, yeah, I'll take you at your word. And so ladies, yes, if you, are so fortunate to marry young, and I thought about this one, she divorced him after 6 years. So 6 years into the marriage, he was still, waiting on her to honor him with a legacy. And it just makes me very sad. And, I never know where these Kevin Samuel episodes go as far as like, where are they now? But if I had to put money on it, he has probably remarried or is on his way to remarry. Well, I'm sure he's probably remarried. It's been 5 years and found a woman that was ready to have children maybe in 1 to 2 years instead of 6 plus. And she's not only not married, she's not in a relationship, and she's not even actively dating. Because by her own admission, she was like, well, that would require that I put myself out here. And I'm not really doing that. And he said, what are you doing with your time? And she was like, oh, I'm going to therapy. But it hasn't helped you because you still don't have the results that you want. What does the condemn say? Great point, Maggie. After 33 years, it's become apparent to me that the woman I will ultimately select will be the woman that I want to give my life for. She needs to prove to me why she is the one. And ladies, you hear it right here. And this is not any type of like foolish game. Men take it very seriously. Hello, D. And I really want women to put some time into why they are a good candidate. Um, there are things we have to do, ladies. We're not supposed to outperform the men, but we do need to show up in a way that's valuable to them. Erin Laura says, absolutely. Hi, Celine. What would you add to that, Lucy?
Exactly. And a pretty face and a beautiful body is not going to show them whether you can be the lady of the house. Can you cook? Can you maintain a clean environment for him? And not only physically, but mentally. Are you going to provide him with the peace that he needs once he gets home after just dealing with the daily hardships of work. So again, she said that she was in therapy. How long was she in therapy? But along with that therapy, there's also physical exercise. That is a lot of therapy, because when you're taking care of your body and you're getting those endorphins up, and you have a goal of your physical self, that's part of your therapy. And it seems to me that many women are just saying therapy, just talking and not doing. Again, men watch what we do and not what we say all the time.
Yeah, that is so true. So to wrap up, I'll try to always give you ladies some tangible takeaways. Men marry for a reason. You want to find out what that reason is that they want a woman in their life. And ladies, I almost feel like a fool saying this, but you have to open up your mouth and ask. One, you want to listen to what he says. Men mean what they say. They're not a man of good character. He's not going to lie and blow smoke. He doesn't have time to do that. He's on his purpose. So he means what he says when he says something. I find it sad that so many women now, they struggle having a simple conversation, and then also being able to vet and be vetted. They're like trying to read between the tea leaves and what does this mean? And, I don't know, should I call? I want to talk to him, but I'm not sure. Like, my man told me, Maggie, if you want to know something, just ask. Like a man who is who he is, he doesn't hide anything. He's just like, this is me, take it or leave it. So ladies, really get comfortable with answering those questions and believing him. That's why those, early dates should be simple dates that you can just talk, coffee dates or on the park bench or something like that. If you get too caught up in all the extravagant things, you miss a lot of it. So find out why your man wants a woman in his life, because usually men, they have a period of time where they're kind of like in monk mode and they're building themselves. They're on their purpose. They have a goal. They go as far as they can on their own, and then they take a woman to help them achieve the next goal. What is that goal? Again, is it to have children for them? Is it to be their Mrs. and their feminine companion? Is it to run a well-functioning home? Is it to be the feminine asset to his masculine brand? And then ladies, I would also advise, I mean, Lucy and I have the finishing school, and I do courses and consults outside of YouTube, but you want to assess yourself and know where your strengths are and know where your opportunities are, if you even want to make any changes in that area. If you know that you don't want children or you can't have children, then you need to say that, and don't lead someone astray, because you wouldn't want him to think, You wouldn't want him to make you think that, oh yeah, I'll take care of the bills, and then looking at you every month for 50% of the mortgage. So make sure you know what his role is for a woman in his life, because Kevin Samuel said, being a wife is a job. I tell my ladies, do less and be more, but there is a role that we play. There's a responsibility for that. And then you decide, ladies, a man offers, he explains what he's looking for. He will ask you directly, do you see yourself? Could you be this in my life? And then he will wait and watch for consistency. And if you know that you don't want that, if you know you don't want children, if you know you don't want to be prioritize him, you want to prioritize career, you can do whatever you want to, but just know that and say that. Selena sharing that oh, you didn't want to have children. Well, that's completely your prerogative. So if you know that, you say that. And it may limit your pool, just like me being older and having kids will limit my pool, but at least you know what you're getting into. So that was all that I had. Did you have any other takeaways or anything to close us out, Lucy?
No, it's the only takeaway is that we lost an incredibly wise man who was vilified by many for telling the truth. And at this point in our world, we need to support people that tell the truth, no matter how hard it hits you, because again, it helps us be accountable for our actions. That that survey that you created, Maggie, with you being a 1, or a 10, or with those qualities, I think it helps us be accountable. It helps with the being introspective and say, what am I missing here? And how can I get better? Because again, you can take a look at how your life is going, and if it's not going the way you want it, it could be that you are the common denominator. So again, I think that Kevin was sharing some incredible wisdom, and smart women listened, paid attention, and understood. Those who did not want to take accountability and wanted to continue in their chaos, those were the ones generally, unfortunately, calling in and showing the world that they were not ready to have a relationship.
Beautifully said. So, again, I encourage you all to watch this episode. It's linked in the description. It's one of the shorter ones, so it's only 20 minutes. And it was just a master class. And it unfortunately is very common for modern women who go on the attack, right? This woman was basically calling Kevin to challenge him because he dared say, no, you need to compete for the man that you want because they're rare. And she was like, no, I think we both have to prove ourselves to each other. And I said it and I will say it again. Ladies, the men that we want, if they've proven themselves to the world, we need to prove ourselves to them, because ultimately we want what they have. Just like a job, just like we put all this effort into getting straight A's at school or getting that promotion at work, or I've used this example in another stream where those of us who love to travel, I love to travel, but if I want to get on that plane, I got to go through that security. There's certain things I can have in my bag, certain things that I can't. But if I want to get to that destination, I can either stay back here and complain, well, that's not fair, and you should have to tell me your plane is safe and all of these, or I get my hips in that line and I go through security and I pour out my water bottle and I do whatever I need to do so that I can get on that plane, and get to my destination. So ladies, I don't really see what the problem is, but you know what? Nobody's going to fight you. What's going to end up happening is you will find yourself, if this is the hill that you want to die on, You may unfortunately die alone. Oh, yeah, Kevin Samuels inspired you. Yeah. So Kevin Samuels changed my life. I think about him often. The Wives Club is here every Friday. We always review a Kevin Samuels episode because even though he's no longer with us, his legacy lives on. Thank you, Lisa. I try, you all. I really have a heart to help, especially for young women, because I put myself on the hot seat. I remember that 20-something-year-old version of Maggie. I was headstrong. You couldn't tell me anything. I was going to change the world. Got this big job, got this big degree. Thank God for my upbringing. Lucy and I both come from immigrant families, and so I did that modern woman bullheadedness and then came right back to center. And so I'm so grateful that I have a second chance. And I knew that when my husband was ready for the kids, I had the kids. And so, yes, ladies, we don't want you to die alone. We want you to win. So just know that and just be mindful about the decisions that you make because we are all going to end up at 65 one day. So, what do you want your 40s and 50s and 60s to look like? So, we encourage you to prioritize relationships. Know that you're going to be swimming upstream and it's okay. We will be here to encourage you and to give you a woman's perspective from Kevin Samuels' content. All right, everyone. Well, Lucy, Godspeed your recovery. We hope you feel better. Thank you for joining me from the clouds. I appreciate it. Thank you all for being here. We will see you again next Friday for another episode of the Wives Club. Until then, I hope you all have a good night.
Adios.
Adios.